I'd like to turn over the program now to our first featured speaker, Steve Hedberg, who will be giving a brief speech on passion. I think Steve needs no further introduction as a brother of our home charge road Trtion. Please welcome to the stage Steve Hedberg.
Good evening, everyone. I want to keep this telethon going, so remember, support the Brotherhood. www.stevehedberg.com/support your brother. Bitcoin is preferred. PayPal's fine too. All right. Never paddle alone. That's what my whitewater instructor told us in a weekend class I took in preparation for my 320-mile trip down the James River, alone. I did so as an artist, what I call immersion art. I make a journey of some kind, alone of course, and create a series of paintings and drawings that reflect my experiences. I took 3 weeks off, packed up a kayak with about 120 pounds of gear, and set foot. As my wife and 2 daughters stood on the bank of the river waving goodbye, I floated away. After just minutes of paddling, into the drizzle and mist, and with way too much weight on my boat, I thought, I want to go home. That moment was the hardest point of the trip. I never felt more alone and helpless. I instantly had complete regrets about what I had signed myself up to do. But as I paddled on, I became stronger and found my stride. As I paddled down the river through Class 1, Class 2, and occasionally Class 3 rapids, I came across other river enthusiasts. I caught up with a family, 2 canoes, a parent, and a child in each canoe. We exchanged pleasantries, and then I kept about 100 yards courtesy distance because, you know, stranger danger here. I didn't want to scare them off. But, yeah, blood and guts. But as we went down the river, it was clear that we were all kind of keeping an eye out for each other. We'd watch each other's line and wait and make sure we got through the rapids without a flip. The more I went down the river, the more folks I met. There was Jimmy, who allowed me to camp on his property on the side of the river. I took a long hot shower in his outdoor shower, which after 3 days of river water, sweat, and mud was a transcendental experience. And I'm pretty sure I was doing them a favor as well. Afterward, I was sitting out watching the sunset, and he walks out with 2 Miller Lights and his little girl following behind with a kite. We had a couple of beers, talked about the river, and watched his daughter for the first time attempt to fly a kite. The day I left Buchanan was rainy and cool. It was clear it was a stretch that I was going to be alone. It was a few days after Labor Day, midweek. No one was out there. I flipped my kayak on a stretch of rapids and found myself moving swiftly, submerged and upside down. I recovered, collected my gear, wet and cold and shaken by the episode, and I decided to pull myself off the river. So I called the owner of the next campground, Charlie. Charlie came up and picked me up, shuttled me back to the campground, and I paid him to do this, of course. But what I didn't pay him to do was go back to his house, load up 2 nights worth of dry season firewood, and drive it back to my campsite and unload it. We became friends over the next 2 days. I had a lot of these conversations with those I met, and on several occasions I was offered assistance, encouragement, bottle of water, cookie, a couple times a beer. And we all shared a bond. It was the river. Didn't matter who you were, where you came from, where you fell on the political spectrum, which is clearly a divisive thing this day and age. It took me this repetition of good deeds to realize I was in good company, that I was not paddling alone. There was an invisible safety net that we all shared. This isn't foreign concept to this room. For instance, my wife and I are planning a trip to Guatemala, where my 2 daughters were adopted. I have brother Kurt French, he's not here, is he? Who owns a health food store. He owns a health food store down there, and he's going to help me plan a safe and fruitful trip. He also nearly got me killed once, but that's another story. I'd love to tell it, actually, if you want to. It involves the sale of sunglasses. You guys know what I'm talking about? All right. You can hear that later. And then there was, Brother Taylor Early, who wrote Trtion Brothers. I don't know if this has actually happened. Has this actually happened? I called Brother Taylor Early to say, my car is broken down on 64. Has that ever happened, actually, other than this time? I don't know. Yeah, that's a cliche in our house. And Taylor didn't, well, he laughed first, thought I was joking. But then he said, do you need a lift? He didn't ask me how far, what the situation was. He was there for me. Tow truck driver met him halfway, and then we went and had a couple beers. Not the tow truck driver. Fortunately, I'm sorry, I skipped. The type is a little small. Then there's Brother Steve Queller, who, when my dad passed away this spring, was there for me. He flew down from Florida, or to Florida from Virginia. He joined my family as we remembered my father, and on that day of the memorial, Steve and I played a round of golf on my old man's favorite course to honor him. That meant a lot to me. My realization that my brothers and my river people have something in common, a bond that crosses all barriers. When I reflect on my adult life, I realize how present it is. I'm sure you all can think of moments in your life where someone stepped up for you. It's like insurance, right, Steve Jones? You are covered. I consider it to be the greatest benefit of brotherhood, even when you don't see it. Brothers were never paddling alone. That's it. Thank you.